Welcome back, friends, to another episode of MES Un podcast. I am here, as always, with Buga and Pablo. Plus, we have a special guest in the house. You know him from ESPN. You know him from Siempre Positivo. We've got Sam Marsden in the house with us. We're going to be talking about the Betis match, the Getafe match, the ups and downs of Barcelona. We'll get into the Araujo saga, contract negotiation, transfer rumors, and then we'll try to get some details around this Dani Olmo registration drama as well. All that and more on today's episode. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you drop a like, show some love and support for the channel as we dive into things. Sam, I'm coming over to you first. How you feeling today, sir?
Hey, I'm feeling fairly good. Yeah, it's been quite a relaxed weekend, apart from the Barca result and the drama at the end of the Getafe game. But yeah, delighted to be here with you guys. It's a lovely way to spend a Sunday evening.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you on here. Welcome to the channel. Pablo, over to you next. How are we feeling, bud?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit frustrating game yesterday, to be fair. You're just one of those annoying ones because I think we all sort of felt it was coming in a way. Like we knew Getafe away was going to be one of those like horrible watches, and you are sort of hoping for a 1-0 with the sort of goal that Koundé scored and then to concede. And then, yeah, like Sam said, the drama at the end, it was just one of those like horrible games that we knew was going to happen, but we walked straight into the trap.
Baby Buga. How you doing, bud?
It's just frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating. That's a word of the week.
Yeah, we've been seeing this now a number of times for Barcelona, the peaks and the valleys. You know, we see, honestly, the match against Betis, one of the most exciting, one of the most beautiful I've seen from Barcelona, and then Getafe happens. And, you know, I'd like to say we didn't see this coming, but if you listen to last week's episode, Pablo kind of called us out, said, I don't think you guys are realizing how hellish this match is going to be. So, Sam, let me jump over to you first. Were you surprised by the Getafe results? We'll talk about Betis and all that, but were you surprised by the 1-1 draw away to Getafe?
I don't think surprised. No, not when you look at Barcelona's history. That's 5 straight seasons now, not winning there since I think 2019 was the last win. It's the first time they scored in those 5 meetings. So I think that's probably the disappointing thing, that they got the goal, that they got ahead, and that they then sort of let Getafe back into the game so easily and were unable to score a second. Because I think not only do you have the precedent of Barca struggling at the Coliseum in recent years, but every team struggles there this year. Getafe have played 11 games at home now. They've conceded 6 goals, so it's not just like it's just bête noire for Barca. It's for a lot of the Liga teams. And as much as we can, or people can hate on Getafe for a lot of things, especially, the theatrics at the end, the diving around, the way they sort of stop the game. It's not so much sort of the anti-football within the game, it's just the way, they break up the game. You have to give them credit for how they defend as well. That defensive record at home is superb. And in the scheme of things, I don't think it was a massive surprise that the Barca dropped points there. Like I said, I think the 2 things to note are, one, the disappointment that they did go ahead and then let Getafe back into the game. And I also think the second thing is perhaps, just for now at least, to separate it from the run of games before Christmas, because of the points I've made before about Getafe being a difficult place to go, not just for Barca, but for everyone this season. I think it's going to be more important to see how they react in the coming weeks rather than to group that, with the Leganés and the Las Palmas defeats.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Pablo, what do you think about that? Like, is this a result that we should have expected and maybe not weigh it so heavily? And really, it's the matches coming into this that were the problem. I mean, had we not lost and dropped points in the earlier matches, like Sam mentioned, was this maybe not as big of a deal? How are we feeling about things?
Yeah, that is a good point from Sam, to be fair. Yeah, because it's like I said last week, obviously, and I'm not the only one who said this. Most Barca fans agree that going to Getafe is obviously really difficult to the Coliseum, and like Sam said, it's not just Barca either. But of course, with our record in recent years, we sort of knew what to expect, and we knew that they sort of that they really get up for it, don't they? Especially when the big guns come to town, so you can expect it. That's why I agree. For me, we played so well against Real Madrid, so well against Real Betis. I knew full well we weren't going to play the same against Getafe. There's just no way that you do, really. But what you do want is to get out of there with a 1 or 2-0 win and sort of survive, and just say, that's done. Let's get back to playing how we are. I wouldn't be surprised now if Benfica on Tuesday night or Valencia on next Sunday, Barca start playing liquid football again. I just think it's a case of Getafe away. You sort of have to sort of buy into what you're going to get out of the game, if you like. And the annoying thing is Barca got their goal in the 9th minute. That is exactly what you want to do at the Coliseum. And to drop points from there, is such a kick in the teeth. I think especially that it was in like the 30th minute before Getafe equalised, and I thought, this is such a slow, dull game, but that's almost what they want, and then they catch you like cold like that, and that's exactly what happened. And then once it was 1-1 in the second half, I mean, you know what you're going to get really, and we couldn't overcome it, so we have to take the responsibility ourselves, unfortunately.
Yeah. Buga, what stood out to you in the Getafe match?
I mean, first of all, you mentioned like it's something we could have expected. I think Getafe, in a nutshell, like yes, it's maybe one of those that it's like the anomaly. Like maybe the Leganés defeat is one that we could have said, okay, maybe this isn't one we should sort of remark. Okay, this is a defeat it should have not happened. But when we take a look at Getafe, maybe that's one where you say, okay, 5 years ago, the last goal we scored was Junior Firpo who scored that goal, so it's like a long time ago. But like Getafe is one where I don't know if praise is the right word to say, but what they do it good, right? I think they're probably one of the best teams in the world equipped at being without the ball. Like that's a guaranteed. I think that Bordelas does that very well with their team. I mean,
yeah, real quick, Getafe only had 22% possession.
Yeah, I mean, they won against Pontevedra from the 4th division with 16% possession. So like they don't have vergüenza against that, They don't have any shame in that. But when it comes to the game, I think that like Pablo said, I think the key was there is that the goal we got it very early on, and the fact that we couldn't, add into the scoreboard after that is such a disappointment. It's such a problem from that, and even that I think Bordalas, even in a moment, I also thought he was kind of risky because I thought that he made a change. He made two changes that were like he wanted also to win the game, because I thought he actually decided that he was going to win the game, but then he went like, no, I'm going to revert back, and then like he went back to his normal, like defensive lines. But we were very all over the place. I think that Barcelona never really settled into the game, was very uncomfortable. So yes, is this a result could have been isolated? Yes, perhaps, but overall, because of the entirety of the form that we've had in these past few weeks in La Liga, it's like it's unfortunate that we had Getafe at this moment, just at this moment in time.
I think that's a good point. The timing of this draw definitely stings. Is there any sense of misfortune from this? You could argue kind of a lucky goal for Getafe. There's also the no penalty against Koundé. Sam, is there any argument there that maybe Barcelona should have gotten the win here for either of those instances? Maybe Peña should have done something differently with that save. Maybe Koundé should have gotten a penalty. Is any of that floating around your mind?
I always find it difficult to analyse goalkeepers because obviously, like we've all played football, but very few of us have played in goal. And sometimes it looks like, I don't know, like obviously he makes a difficult save. So what's hard to analyse here is, whether you would expect him to make that save and still be able to get out of danger, or whether it was a tricky save or not. But I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. It's a difficult one. I think perhaps he could have done better. Is my initial opinion when I saw it at the time, and when I saw the replays. I mean, perhaps Barca's defenders could have reacted a little bit quicker as well, and not let the Getafe striker midfielder in so easily. So I don't know, but I mean, I think it would be a little bit harsh to call it as like a massive mistake from Peña. I mean, it's a little bit
certainly no Onana back there. If you guys saw the match earlier for United,
I didn't. I heard. Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. Sorry, Sam. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's a clear penalty on Koundé. The only reason I can think that they've not given it or not reviewed it, and I don't even know if this is part of the rules, but when you're trying to think why they're not giving it, is perhaps because they go, well, he's not getting to the ball. But I think even in that circumstance, it should still be a penalty because he's absolutely rugby tackled him. Obviously, there's a lot of comparisons on social media today of the one that Endrick got against Espanyol, and I think there was a Rudiger one as well. A couple of, obviously, the comparisons are always made with Madrid ones, but for me that was a penalty. But Barca, I don't think you can talk about fortune really. Yes, that one decision, but they did create a couple of chances. I think Rafinha missed. I think the header in the first half was a good one. The other one from the cross from Lamine in the second half. How Araujo and Koundé haven't gotten the end of that Lewandowski nod back in the first half, so they just weren't clinical enough, which is it's strange really. They seem to sort of lose their sort of efficiency against these teams that do sit back, and then you see the Rafinha header against Madrid and the chances he's taken in the Clásicos this season and the ones he's missed in other games. They just don't quite fall for him. So it's one of them. I don't know. Rafinha is obviously having an extraordinary season, and against Las Palmas, he was the one who scored and stuff. But you do get the feeling that perhaps he was by far not one of Barca's worst players yesterday, but obviously he set the bar for himself so high this season that you do wonder when teams do sit back if he can be as effective as he is. I think his best moments, when you look at his moments against Bayern Munich, against Real Madrid, they've all come running in behind, and obviously you don't get those moments against Getafe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Buga, what do you think? Is this there any case for Barca supporters to be upset at that no call penalty on Koundé?
I mean, absolutely. Like Sam said, it's a rugby tackle completely. I think depending if it's a different team, maybe that's something that's got to be differently given. But I always say here on this spot, like when you're playing against a team like Getafe, when you're a team like Barcelona, you should be good enough to not be relying on those debates of the referees on the penalties. Like you should be good enough to be able to be winning these games. Of course, you want these decisions to go your way, but I mean, you're more than good enough. You should be able to win with your own weapons. This encounter. So I think that I never like to get into those discussions. I always think they're not my type, of discussions. Wow. I just gotta say that. Wow!
Really?
Wow!
I didn't even know you were like. I didn't know you were so like Hansi Flick like
that. No, I mean, I'm not saying anything about Hansi Flick. I just mean like, I don't think there's any point, in debating a referee. Like it just didn't happen. Move on.
Who is this calm, composed Buga that we have on the pod? What is going on? Somebody commented a week ago too. They was like, "Why is Buga being so calm and rational? Like, is he okay?"
New year,
new Buga. I love it. All right, Pablo, what stood out to you in the Getafe match? Because like I said earlier, you kind of saw this one coming.
Yeah, I think that the frustrating thing for me is that we're 7 points behind Real Madrid now. And I can't quite wrap my head around that when I look at how both teams play. And I look at the Clásico the other day, and I feel a bit like a mug saying this, but I still really believe that Barcelona are the best team in Spain this season. But I'm also aware that people can point at the table and say, well, they're clearly not. And I also get that argument, to be the best team, you also do have to do your job in the other games, and we haven't done it. I think we've picked up 6 out of the past 24 points available, but I'm just struggling to accept being that many points behind Real Madrid when I see how we've played against them, especially recently in the Super Copa, when I see how we played against Atleti at Montjuic, and it's just not really adding up in my mind, and that is a real frustration for me that, I mean, it's not a given, but 7 points behind. What is it, 20 match games in, are we, or 21? I'm not sure. Like
20 matches played at the end of this week, yeah.
That's a long way back for Real Madrid, Like that's some mountain we're going to have to climb there, and that is the most irritating thing for me after this game. It really is that we're playing a massive catch-up game in the league, and the questions have got to start coming up now as to what do Barca maybe move on and focus on.
Yeah.
Because
does Barcelona have a versatility problem, do you think? Like in the sense that
say more.
Like I think that this team, when I look at it, I feel it's more of a team that will be suited way more to like cups, where I think that you can line up your best 11, and you can play it one way, and you can just focus on the win because the other team also has to win the game. It's more of this back and forth, and you have to get the win. Yeah. And I think that it's more suited to that sort of football in the sense that, I don't know, maybe that's why we saw that Bayern Munich side from Flick, just demolish the Champions League. I'm not trying to give any any bad blood there, but like it's I feel it's more suited to that sort of football rather than a consistent side, because when I think against Getafe, I feel that I don't know what's the answer, what are we going to shift? What it's like we only seem to score. I think we read one of the comments from somebody that said like Flick needs to score at least more than 3 goals in the first half, because if not, by the end they're just going to sit back and it's going to be hard them to break them down, and then we don't have any answers, because we don't have any other way of attacking. It's like we need to open up we need spaces to attack. It's like we cannot build in intricate spaces or build slowly like we used to. I feel it's like this team is much more vertical, and it's quite fast build-up play that you need spaces to do. It's not that slow, intricate play that sometimes we've did before.
Yeah. And I honestly, I thought that's what we were seeing against Betis. I thought we were seeing something a little bit different, a little bit spicier from Barcelona. But right back to the struggles that we've been seeing. So, Buga, you mentioned some of the comments. I do want to pull up one of our comments of the week here. Let's see if I can get the name right. It comes from Shapnihaldar 1998. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that, but he shared with us, to win the league, you need consistency and a good bench. Barca up until now don't have both. But the thing with Barca is that if you solve one, then the other will solve itself. If we do have a good bench, I can see us doing really good in all competitions, wing backs, wingers, and a striker, and we're all set. So, Sam, my question for you is it a question of the bench? Is it a question of experience? We do have a fairly young team. What do you think Barcelona need to kind of get that consistency to be competitive in La Liga?
It's a good question. It comes back a little bit to what Buga's saying, I think, about not being able to break down teams when there is no space. A little bit what we commented before about Rafinha as well. They probably perhaps do need a little bit more variety in attack. They're very sort of reliant on, for me, Lamine and Rafinha. I know Lewandowski's got 25 goals this season, and it seems ridiculous not to put him in there as well. But I think a lot of the creativity and stuff comes down to Lamine attracting players, to Rafinha playing well when there's space. Obviously, Pedri's been fantastic this season as well. He's one player who the pass for the Koundé goal against Getafe was superb, and there were a couple of other good passes. But they probably do need something else. If you think about pure wingers, they've only really got Lamine, and even he's coming inside a little bit more at the moment. Rafinha's coming inside. Varane can come on and play wide, but also wants to come inside. So in terms of opening up the pitch, how Xavi used to play, they don't really have options in that sense. I don't know whether that would have helped to attack sort of Getafe, but it certainly sort of widens the pitch a little bit and stops them grouping in the box as much as they did. It's true they're also lacking perhaps a little bit of depth, but look at the players that came on against Getafe: Frenkie de Jong, Dani Olmo, Ferran Torres. Whatever your opinions on them, they're all sort of players that cost over 50 million euros that the club have invested in, that are internationals, European champions, etc. So yeah, they certainly don't have the depth that we've spoken about with Atletico. Real Madrid probably do have a little bit more depth. Real Madrid have a lot of injuries at the moment, so it's quite sort of balanced. I guess Barca have the funny thing for Barca is we talk about the lack of depth. They actually did best early on the season when they had even less depth, when they had a lot of players out and they were playing with the same 11, which was perhaps one of the reasons why they dipped just before Christmas. But yeah, it's hard to quite put your finger on it. I think they get there. Like I say, I think there are a combination of reasons for the pre-Christmas form. I don't think the Getafe result was the same reasons. I think it was a historical thing, Getafe being good at home, etc. Like I said before, but yeah, the proof's going to be in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we mentioned, because Real Madrid just won again, so we're going to be 7 points down from Madrid, 20 matches played. Pablo, are we signing off on La Liga? Is there any hope for you? Where's your head at? Are we feeling optimistic, pessimistic? Are we trying not to think about it?
So dead.
He looks so sad right now.
Pablo, come on.
No, I'm gutted, honestly. I'm not.
Pablo's like, should I be optimistic or should I just let my true feelings out?
Yeah. Well, no. Like history would tell me, and all of my head is telling me 7 points behind Real Madrid. You can say goodnight now. I'd almost say that the other way around, actually, too. If we were 7 above Madrid, I wouldn't think we'd lose it from there at this stage of the season. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think that's the sort of time of the season and the margin that you think, back off now, we've got this. And that starts to play a mentally on the side who are 7 points behind. Like I said, I just can't give up on it. I know we didn't play well against Getafe, but in general, I just think we placed a lot better than them. And I know it doesn't come down to that, and that's a silly thing to say with Real Madrid because they win no matter how they play, obviously. But for me, I don't see it as a season where we're dropping off, and that's the reason we're going to lose the league. Like, you looked at our 2 fixtures before that, and they look ready to take on competitions, Barca. And I'm intrigued to see how they do on Wednesday night against Benfica too. But the league now, with where we are, it's almost like, I think it's going to be really, really difficult to win it from here. Really difficult. I don't know what I'd give our chances percentage-wise, but I mean, I'd struggle to get up to a 30% chance, that's for sure, because I just think 7 points behind at this stage. I mean, when are Real going to drop that many points? You've got 3 versus us, they could drop, that sends it to 4. And, whilst they drop all these points, we've got to win every single game as well. Like, no more slip-ups. Is that going to happen, really? I don't think so. So, yeah, that's what hurts me when I see the state of the two teams right now. But then compared to the league position, that's what's irritating me most. And I think Buga and Sam both said it, that maybe this team are more like suited to cups, or they are a young team, and that consistency in the league that we saw with. I'm thinking about Valverde's team, who are very consistent and kept clean sheets a lot, and Xavi's team also. For all the Xavi maybe we thought would come in and play ridiculously attacking football, actually set up a 4-4-2 and defended a lot too. So Barca aren't quite like that. We've conceded so many stupid goals and let go of so many silly points in the league this season that it's got to that stage now, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, we did just see Atletico go on a 15-match unbeaten streak. We've got wins? It wasn't just unbeaten?
I think it was wins, wasn't it?
It was wins, yeah. It was 15 wins in a row, competitions.
I didn't even realize that. That's insane. Thank you for the correction. Okay. Could Barcelona win out the rest of the season? And then I'm looking at Real Madrid's schedule. So let me give you the argument, at least, get your guys' reaction. Okay, so 7 points down. We beat Real Madrid. Atletico Madrid beats Real Madrid, and then Getafe comes in and saves us. They host Real Madrid on April 23rd. There's your third match. Let's go, baby. Barcelona champions.
We'll probably be saying March is the key month in February, but at the moment, February could be a big month because we've got the Madrid derby. And we've also got potentially, there's 2 games to go in the Champions League, but as things stand, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid will both have extra Champions League games, which could be a hectic schedule for them in February. They're going to have the derby. They're going to have potentially 2 more Champions League games, which Barca don't have. All 3 teams are still in the Copa del Rey as well. We'll see what the draw throws up. You could potentially have, a Clasico in there. You could potentially have 2 Madrid derbies in February. So February could be a very interesting month. I think 7 points is probably too much for Barca to make up on Real Madrid, because I think Madrid will drop points, but I think Barca will drop points as well. I think they'll be closer at some point, but I'm not convinced they'll drop 7 less points than Real Madrid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
They might do better between now and Madrid than the end of the season, but I don't think enough to make up 7 points. But easily could. We could be sitting here at the end of February, I think, and if Madrid or Atletico end up with a really tough Champions League draw, could put the squeeze on them in the league, Copa del Rey, etc. And you could be looking at all teams within sort of 2 or 3 points of each other.
Mm-hmm. Let's hope.
Yeah, there we go. There's that optimism. Thank you, Sam. Buga, what do you think? Is there any chance for Barca to come back in La Liga?
Yeah, no. I was going to say, I think that's a good argument. I think the extra games in the Champions League, certainly we have not seen how this new form is going to shape up, and we've not seen how this new calendar is going to shape up. So I think that this might be a little bit different. And also, this Barcelona team has shown that it can be very hot when they are in the top form. And I think that we've been very sweet these past 2 games at Real Betis, the Super Copa. I think we can get back into it. I think Getafe, like I said, was a bit of an anomaly because they're that sort of a team. I think that every team can potentially struggle in that sense. So yeah, I think it's not over. I don't think it's over, but it's not easy either. It's not like a guaranteed. I think, of course, Barcelona are upstream, with heavy currents.
the only quick thing I will say, not to be like Mr. Negative as always, but obviously Real Madrid and Real Betis actually quite funnily enough, both of them, Real Madrid included, even in previous years for Barca, that has often been a game where it's like Barca stick 4 or 5 in. Both that and Real Betis, they're both sides that leave a lot of spaces. The way Real Madrid defended in the Super Copa was disgraceful. Their fans have been saying it really was. Lucas and Tchouaméni in the spaces and midfield was awful. Without the ball, Real Betis without the ball aren't a great team either. Thought they were better actually at the Benito Villamarín in December, but at Montjuic they were got run ragged. So that's all I'll say. And then you go from those 2 to Getafe. That's like those are different worlds. And I think we knew that, which is why I'm sort of like holding judgment to see how we then do against more normal opposition, because those are sort of the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how strong they are defensively and how many spaces they'll afford you. Yeah, we probably got more. True. We probably got more spaces in the Super Copa against Real Madrid before Mbappe's goal in the 5th minute than we did all game against Getafe.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout, and that is interesting. And we would go from one extreme to the next, from Betis to Getafe. I think that's an interesting point. So we've got an uphill battle in La Liga, 7 points down. We're playing well in Copa del Rey. We're playing well in Champions League. Sam, my question for you is, at this point, what does a successful season look like for Barcelona? We got the Supercopa trophy, right? So we're not going to have a trophyless season. Yay. What for you, I think, defines success at this point for the rest of the year?
It's a difficult question. I don't think they necessarily have to win a competition, because you could win the Copa del Rey and flump in the other things. Obviously, you have to be aiming to win the Copa del Rey. I think they're probably, based on how they've played against Real Madrid, and even though they lost to Atletico Madrid, they'd be the favourites against anyone in the Copa del Rey. So they have to be looking to go far. But look, you can get knocked out of a competition playing well. You know, if they lost to Real Madrid but played well and by a fine margin, it's not the end of the world. I think at least sort of quarterfinals, Champions League, the way things are shaping up, it would take something. You know, they should get into that top 8 now, so that should be a last 16 place. The problem is there could be a few sort of strong teams coming in from the knockouts. You know, Bayern, a Madrid, a PSG. But in theory, they should have a favourable last 16 draw, and then it will come down to sort of, you know, the draw, the luck of the draw, the luck of players being fit at the right time, certain moments going away. I think what would be success is for them to continue that sort of what we've seen this season in the big games. If they can come through all those big games and you're like, look, this is a Barca that's competing again, because there's been too many times where they've not competed in the Champions League in recent years. They don't necessarily have to win the Champions League. Another thing is, I think they're probably, apart from perhaps Liverpool, who are just a little bit more solid, if not as sort of exciting when they're playing well, I think they could probably be, you'd fancy them against any team in Europe right now, which is something you've probably not said since maybe I don't even know if we'd have said it we probably would have said it at the end of the Valverde era still. Like,
yeah,
obviously they Liverpool and Roma. So it's probably the first time in sort of 6 or 7 years where you're genuinely looking at Barca and thinking they could potentially do well in the Champions League. And then in La Liga, they can't repeat this last 8 games. They can drop points along the way, whether it's, you know, against, you know, a Real Sociedad or a Villarreal or whoever it is, but they can't. 1 win in 8 is, it's hard to really go into how shocking that is, and how shocking it is that they've only got 39 points after 20 games, because it's kind of contrasted with the fact there's this young, exciting team and they've had these big wins. If they didn't have those big wins in the Champions League and weren't going so well, I think there'd be a lot more heat on this team. So yeah, they have to be more consistent. They have to be more consistent between now and the end of the season, and then they have to compete in the Champions League, and the Copa del Rey would be a bonus.
Okay. Pablo, what do you think, bud?
Yeah, I do agree with that point about La Liga. You know, I think we're level on points with Athletic Club now. We've dropped an awful amount of points, you know, like drawn and lost the same amount of games that you'd maybe expect, you know, towards the latter end of the season, you know, 32 match weeks in, you know, you'd have. So, yeah, that's worrying. I do think there becomes a time soon where Barca do start thinking about prioritising the cup competitions. I really do. I mean, let's see how far this situation goes in the league. If Real Madrid lose and Barca win their next game in the league, for example, and it goes to 4 points again, then all of a sudden that comes alive a little bit. But I think if Real Madrid keep winning in the league, there's going to get to a point when the cup competitions, if Barca get through to the semis, I think the draw's on Monday, maybe by the time people are watching this actually. So it is on Monday, right, Sam? The Copa del Rey draw tomorrow?
Yeah, Copa del Rey draws on Monday, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see who Barca have in that, obviously. But, you know, if it's favourable, I think Leganés are still in it. If it's Leganés at home, for example, cliche that we lost them in December, but, you know, then you have a semi-final, you know, coming up to where Barca might just start to shift their focus. If they beat Benfica, pretty much know they're in the top 8 in the Champions League. And I just wonder whether there gets to a point where Barca, sort of Real Madrid style in those Valverde years, if you like, do just start shifting their focus onto the other competitions, which we're not really used to actually at Barca.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. So just looking at who's left in Copa del Rey, I'm seeing Valencia, Leganés, Getafe, Atletico Madrid, Osasuna, Sociedad, and Real Madrid. So winnable competition, I would say. Buga, what do you want to see happen for us to be able to look back on this season and say it was a success?
Let's beat Getafe in the Copa del Rey final.
That would be such a boring final. Please no. I would much rather have to play them in a semi or something to get through and then have an exciting final. The final should be a goal fest for me.
No. Is the semi still 2 legs? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that would be the worst. 2 legs with Getafe, please no.
Yeah, that means another trip there.
No, thank you. No, I think, like I said, like both Pablo and Sam were saying, I think the Copa del Rey would be a very good starting point. I think that is something that if you win the quarterfinal, semifinals, final, 3 games, you need to start hoping from there. I think it naturally gets the player excited. It naturally gets the club excited to win a trophy there. I think La Liga gets alive, but right now we need to prioritize that, the Champions League, I think. But for me, I always keep saying, I think the most important thing is, one, we've already achieved it, and that's getting Barcelona back into the mouth of everybody in Europe. I think that was the most important thing, getting up there to when people talking about us, getting players back into the, I don't know, into the bus of football fans and aficionados around the world, like getting them talking about Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Lewandowski. That's important, even though that may not be, a trophy at the end of the day. For me, that's important when it comes to the stature, the level of a team. Like, I think that's relevant. Having the best team, being Barcelona, being competing for the title for one of the best teams in the world, and the way that they play, I think that's really relevant. And next step, I think, would be to get a victory over 2 legs against a big side in the Champions League. And for me, that will be a successful season. I keep saying, I think last season against PSG, we did it, where it was a away victory against PSG at the Parc des Princes. The next step would be sort of getting the double, getting the win away, getting the win at home, and progressing to the next stage. A win against Bayern, let's say, home and away in a quarterfinal, progressing to the semifinals. After that, you can lose in the way that you want to. Of course, you want to accompany that by a good league position. You want to accompany that with a Copa del Rey victory. You want to accompany that with the Supercopa title that you won, something along those lines. But for me, a successful season is knowing that you gave 100% effort, you play good, and the rest is up to whatever happens, if the ball crosses the line. But you have to do the best, for me. And it's already a good season that if we can get more people talking about Barcelona, that's for me good enough in a sense. It's not good enough. Of course, I want a trophy, but you know what I mean. I think that we've already back into that. It's like, first of all, I want more respect in this club. We've lost it for 5 years. We need it back.
I think if you go back to the start of the season, obviously there was sort of uncertainty about how things would go with Flick, and you looked back at certain, not necessarily objectives or what would make a successful season, but things you wanted to see. You are seeing those things, the foundations being laid for success. Not necessarily this season, but, with Kubasi, Pedri, Gavi back, Lamine Yamal, the spine of the team is looking strong for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Who knows how long these guys can keep going, which has not been the case for a long time. You've been looking at a team where you've got a lot of old players, a lot of young players sort of playing because they have to, and not a lot in the middle. So that's changed a bit. I think one of the big things I wanted to see this season was Pedri staying fit. That seems to have been achieved so far, touch wood, and he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, the development in Rafinha, I think Lamine.
Is that my audio or?
No, I think Sam. I think your audio just cut out there. I was waiting to see your guys' reactions.
Because my headphone often plays up, and I just thought, is that me or? Bear with Sam whilst he gets it back, but he's making the point about the young players.
What wouldn't be a Mosque episode without at least one technical error going on there.
That's like Barcelona getting an injury on a player every season.
We haven't even spoken about Olmo being out injured again, eh?
Bro, what?
Yeah, you didn't see that?
No.
Yeah.
Live reaction.
He's injured.
Really?
He's injured.
How long?
Yeah. A couple weeks, I think I saw.
No. I don't know if obviously from the statement there wasn't. I just saw the club, No, I just saw the club statement, which I can't believe,
Pablo Torre, just get him in.
That is an issue though with Olmo, his constant.
I mean, we all knew he was injury prone.
I don't know. I don't know if I realised the extent of it, eh?
I mean, he was pretty
his injury
prone at Leipzig. He was pretty injury prone.
See, I admittedly did not
He even
follow
started
him
the Euros
at
injured.
Leipzig, like at all. So
He started the Euros injured, didn't he?
really,
Yeah.
that's a
And
problem.
then
It's
he
just
came
like,
back fit like in the second game.
He's done this for a bit now. You know, he starts one game, comes off the bench in another, and he's out again. It's like, wow.
How's this microphone now?
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're
Bit
good.
better, yeah?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
good. We're back. Okay, so we're back. Sam had a little microphone problem, but through the magic of editing, we pick up where we left off. Sam, if you remember, you were talking a little bit about, if we rewind to the beginning of this season, our expectations and what we were looking for, and having healthy players, seeing some of the young guys come through. I don't know if you wanted to finish that point or if
Yeah, no, I think I was just saying quite often under Javi, we were quite often asked which players have improved, and often it was quite sort of difficult. But I think we've seen quite clearly players have improved this year. I mean, some of them have been sort of natural progression. You're going to see Lamine Yamal and Pau Kubasi improve year on year. Although I don't know what you guys think. I think the level of Lamine Yamal is, I don't know, I guess it changed a little bit with the Euros, but far ahead sort of at the end of last season, what I was imagining this season. Certainly the improvement in Rafinha has been phenomenal. Inigo Martinez as well has been, I guess, a little bit was down to injuries before. He stayed fit and been good. So we've seen clear improvement in players. We've seen foundations laid. We've seen young players developing. We've seen Pedri stay fit, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal. So I think in part, obviously, the bar has been changed now. It's probably been raised because of those big wins against Bayern, the two Clasico wins, etc. But I think in part, the foundations have been laid, which is kind of what you were probably, it's hard to definitely remember, but probably what you wanted at the start of the season for, and like Buga said, they've been laid, and people are now sort of taking notice of Barca again and talking, wow, look at this team. They're a team to be taken seriously again.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. That to me, I think, if you said it, Sam, and we've talked a little bit about this on the podcast, those wins against Real Madrid and Bayern really started up that hype train for Barcelona, and I think that moved the yardstick to where we see it today and what we're measuring these results by. I would be fine with a non-embarrassing exit from Champions League, and maybe we win Copa del Rey and make it close in La Liga. And I think we chalk that up as a successful season for the reasons that you guys all said. I did want to make one other point about the, we're rewinding actually a little bit to the Betis match. And this will be a little pivot to get into some other conversation. But Dani Olmo, who is now injured, unfortunately, playing, I think, the most false nine of all false nines. What do you guys think about his performance and Barcelona in general with Olmo kind of playing that false nine position?
I think it literally answers the question and the doubts we had like 5 minutes ago, that we were asking. We lack versatility. We lack different options. We lack different ways to attack. I think Dani Olmo unlocked a little bit more of the goal scoring threat of what would be, our two midfielders coming from, the midfield areas, running to the box, and the two wingers. I think even we saw Koundé overlapping a little bit more in that game. We saw Alex Balde as well. So I think that's a good, it's a good different approach to the game, a different attacking style. So I definitely thought that is something that could have been benefited us quite a lot, but he's injured. I just realized that. You told me.
Yeah.
Off screen.
Pablo, what's your take on things? Is that a new option for Barcelona? Was that a one-time thing, you think? What did you think of the performance with Dani Olmo in that number 9 spot?
I've really enjoyed it. I think sometimes we see vintage Barcelona performances with a false nine, actually, but it's got to be the right team. I think people were saying we should have done it last night, for example, against Getafe. I'm not saying Lewandowski contributed anything, but I don't think people realised that there would not have been that much, room to be doing any of that sort of intricacy against that wall, So it is about the right sort of game, but it's definitely something to try more, because I think we have struggled with mixing it up. That means it would allow us to get the midfield of Gavi, Pedri and Casado with Olmo at the same time and keep the wingers, rest Lewandowski. It does give us another option as opposed to just putting Ferran up front. So I'm a fan of it personally, and I thought it worked brilliantly against Betis on Wednesday night. So I definitely use it more. I think they just need to choose when to use it, and of course when Olmo is fit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sam, I'm going to change up the question a little bit for you, sir. If you don't mind, give us a little, for those that maybe haven't been paying attention, recap of what's going on with Dani Olmo's registration, and is that a done deal now, or is there any lingering rulings to be made that Barcelona need to worry about?
It's not a completely done deal at the moment. I don't know how much you've spoken about it. Obviously, Barca only had him registered until the end of the year because he was registered to cover Andreas Christensen's injury. La Liga said they didn't get the documents in on this deal, which they've now announced to sell VIP seats at the reformed Camp Nou in time to register him, to re-register him. Barca obviously appealed against that. The Consejo Superior de Deportes here in Spain, which is kind of like the sports ministry, I guess, have said that they have a case, and they've sort of revoked the La Liga's decision and given Olmo and Pau Victor registrations while they study the case. So the next step is for them to study the case and give a final ruling, which some people say could take up to 3 months. So in 2 months, 3 months, whenever it is, we're going to have a ruling where they say, look, we agree with Barca. Barca were right, La Liga and the Federation were wrong. Dani Olmo should be registered. Or you could potentially have a situation where, what would it be, sort of March, April time, April, yeah, where they go, no, we do agree with La Liga and the Federation. He shouldn't have been registered, so he's unregistered now for the rest of the season. So it's not completely finished yet. La Liga and the Federation were studying sort of something in the short term to appeal the sports ministry's decision. I don't know if they've not officially announced that yet, so I don't know if they have done or not. So potentially we could have something before that ruling, but I don't think they will. And if they do, I don't think they'll be successful. So I think we're going to be waiting now for the sports ministry's final decision on this case. We've obviously got La Liga saying the documents weren't filed in. There's a couple of different strands which Barca are arguing. There's the one strand where you've got La Liga saying the documents weren't sent on time. Joan Laporte obviously said they sent all the documentation on time, but then he kind of nuanced it in his press conference saying, but then La Liga asked for more stuff. They're obviously with the whole Libera deal, they were a little bit wary about where this money was coming from, whose the companies were, etc. So we don't quite know how that documentation flow went. You've obviously got two sides of the same story. Which we're getting briefed from, so we don't know for sure. And then the second thing is just Barca sort of appealing. And I do kind of agree with this thing, just the ludicrousness of them having to have it done by December the 31st, and then players that they had registered, which they didn't unregister themselves, but were unregistered by the Federation, then not being allowed to be sort of re-registered again. And there's sort of elements of that as well, where there's a rule change and different things coming on and dates. So as always with Barca, there's so many sort of complications which you sort of read into, and you do see the grey areas yourself. So that's where we're at. Yeah, and even when you try and explain it simply, I think it's still difficult to understand.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's kind of a bizarre situation, and kind of unique as well. And so, is there any chance? Like, let's play this out a little bit. Let's say we get 2-3 months down the road, and it's ruled against Barcelona, but Olmo has been playing in matches that whole time. Is there going to be anything weird? Like, are Barcelona going to have to forfeit points that Dani Olmo played in any match, anything like that? Or are they just going to go from the ruling on?
They just go from the ruling on. There's a potentially a case where sort of clubs appeal who've lost points because of games or whatnot, but I don't think they would win. You often have cases where players are suspended and you appeal the suspension and the suspension gets changed to a different date, etc. I know it's not the same case because this is completely different, but there's not sort of precedent for it. And if the decision, if that's the rule, I don't see a situation where, in that scenario where the sports ministry do side with the Liga and the Federation, and Olmo misses, say, the last 2 months of the season, I don't see a situation where they revoke results or sort of, yeah. I don't see that happening. You can see clubs could appeal, and we could see another lengthy legal process, but I don't think there's precedent for that.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Particularly, being optimistic, if Barcelona do make a little La Liga comeback and maybe get the trophy, how much drama could be involved in that. But the realistic side of me says it maybe won't be as big of a deal if Barcelona remain where they're at, third place, second place, something like that. I don't know if it'll be worth some of these clubs' time going after it. What do you guys think? Pablo, Buga, you guys got thoughts on it?
I've done my fair share of legal exploration sometimes.
Pablo, nothing from you, sir?
No, sorry. You guys cut out for me for a minute there. No, it was very useful from Sam. I asked you casually the other day as well, Sam, a little bit for a bit of an explanation, because even being with inside the club, it's like a different type of journalism than what Sam might be like hearing, and he probably he knows a lot more about it than me, So I was intrigued to hear it too, and just sort of how it works. And obviously, everyone that we all listened to the Laporta press conference the other day where he explained it all, but it was nice to hear it again. I think simplified as well, useful for me as well, and I think our listeners will really appreciate it because it is a little bit of an alien situation, I think, to a lot of Barca fans, like where we obviously are football fans and then we have to try and understand all about these sorts of things as well. So I think it does confuse a lot of people. The good thing is that it's fine now, isn't it? And let's hope that nothing else strange happens.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The other player that kind of brought in a little bit of drama, a little bit of a saga going on right now, Araujo. Contract ends after next season, right? So negotiations are going on. But in the meantime, there were some rumors there that, and I think Juventus actually did put in a bid from what I was seeing. Sam, could you give us an update or your perspective on what's going on with Araujo? I mean, he's a club captain. He is barely even entering the prime of his career. Is there any truth to the rumors that he was actually considering a move out of the club? And if so, what do you think is maybe leading to that?
Yeah, I guess the first thing to say, there was so much sort of sourced information from sort of respected, reliable A, transfer journalists, B, journalists sort of here covering Barca on a day-to-day basis, the local ones for the local radios and newspapers, that there certainly was a case there. From my point of view, all I ever got from the Araujo camp was they weren't close. This has been the case as well for sort of like the last sort of 18 months, I guess. Even pre-injury, there's been the situation with Araujo where he's always been the one player whose camp has not completely sort of closed the idea on definitely leaving the club if a certain offer comes in. If you think of other players, Frenkie de Jong is obviously the obvious one that comes to mind, but a lot of other players, they're sort of, Ferran Torres, they tell you, no, I'm staying at Barca, I want to stay at Barca, etc. Whereas Araujo is not that he's wanted to go, but he's always been, look, if I'm in a situation like, de Jong's in, like, I guess Ferran Torres has not quite been in that situation, but where the club are sort of actively looking to move me on, I'm not going to just hang around for the sake of it. I'm going to look for what's best for me. But his preference has always been, as far as people close to him have said to us, this was at the same time as when we were hearing about the Juventus thing, was his preference was always to stay at the club. There's obviously stories about him being disappointed about Inigo Martinez and Kubasi sort of establishing themselves as first choice while he's out of the team. I don't massively buy into that because what does he expect? He's injured for 6 months. Inigo Martinez is also of a certain age where even if he is playing every week, it's not sort of a long-term solution. I do think he's probably a little bit irked by the Jonathan Tah stuff because that's probably a little bit more sort of substantial than Inigo Martinez because that's like, look, this is Flick, someone who shares an agent with Flick, someone who plays in Germany where Flick's from, a German international. Perhaps you're a little bit more worried about that. But I think what it ultimately comes down to is the contract situation. I think that's a large part of it. Obviously, his contract's up in 2026. When he signed his new deal with Matteo Alemany, he did so on the understanding that at some point he was going to get a big deal because he actually renewed with the club on much lower terms than he could have got at the time because of the close financial situation. And I guess you'll probably say this is a mistake by him or by his camp with sort of a gentleman's agreement, with you will, from Matteo Alemany that the next time he renews, he will get the bumper contract, which his status in the squad at that time deserved. The defensive record was the main reason they won the league under Xavi. He was, absolutely superb. People were probably talking about him as top 5, top 3 centre back in the world, and that contract has never arrived. So there's some sort of disappointment, I guess, there, and I think that's ultimately what fuels this thing. How far he would have been prepared to go, and I mean, even from it could be that he signs a new contract this next week, as some people have said. There's still sort of some sort of to and fro to go on that, as I understand, or that was the case sort of a few days ago. But I think he stays. I think he signs a new contract eventually. But that's the nuts and bolts of it. Another sort of contract sort of not saga, but that's the main situation with Araujo always preferring to stay if he could.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I think I heard during one of the matches this week that he's not even in the top 10 of highest paid Barcelona players right now. So I don't know exactly, but yeah, there are players that earn a lot more than him for doing. Well, I was going to say for doing a lot less. He's not done a lot sort of the last 6 months, and I guess that's one of the sort of nagging things sort of in Barcelona's mind because obviously he's just had a long-term injury, but he's always sort of picked up odd injuries here and there. I don't know if it's probably unfair to call him injury prone, but certainly if you're renewing, you're certainly thinking, can this guy stay fit? Yeah, I'm with you on that. Buga, Pablo, and anything to add to that conversation, or shall we wrap things up with a little prediction for Benfica?
No, I'm just so happy that he stays. Hopefully, I think though something had to give, because it was like a very 180 sort of situation, because the stories were kind of really heavily pointing that he was going to leave, and then like I don't know, bang, apparently. But I mean, Sam knows more than we do apparently, and if the camp was saying like no, he always wanted to stay, then there had to be noise from somewhere else that something was uncomfortable for him, right? And probably was a gentleman's agreement that was just not coming, right? And if I was Araujo, I would still be like, hell yeah, like it's probably I probably deserve more if I'm like sitting below, I don't know, like 10 players in the salary what do you call it, in the wage list,
Sure.
Gentleman's agreement, that's a risky thing to do in any job, John? You should be telling us that now.
Yeah, yes, very much so. Very much
Hanging
so.
on to loose promises from words. Oof.
Yep. Yeah, having been through my own personal transfer sagas on my third employer of this year, I
too many transfers.
Fully appreciate it. Too many transfers for me. All right, so Sam, thank you for the insight on both the Olmo and Araujo case. Let's wrap on this, folks. I know I didn't mention that we were going to dive into this, but I pulled up the schedule and realized we got a match in 2 days. So Benfica hosting Barcelona. Let's go around and get just some quick scoreline predictions for this one. Sam, I'm going to put you on the spot and have you go first, sir.
No, I think Barcelona will win. Benfica have got a decent team. They've obviously got home advantage. They're in a decent position in the Champions League. But I think what we've seen from Barca in the Champions League this season is enough evidence to think that they'll go there and get a result. I think the fact that they can target this game and sort of think if we win this game, we're in the last 16. That's a massive sort of motivation for the team, especially on the back of Getafe. Almost a loss, but he's not been starting the big games recently anyway. He wasn't in the team against Atletico even before the registration saga. He wasn't in the team against Real Madrid when they won so convincingly. So obviously he's a nice player to have on the bench, but it's not someone that's been sort of putting up great numbers in the last few weeks. So I think we'll probably see the same team that started the Super Copa final with Araujo. I don't think we'll see many changes, and I think Barca will win the game probably 2 or 3-1.
Love it. Pablo, what are you thinking?
I'm going to go 4-2 Barca.
4-2 Barca.
Yeah, I think,
Let's go.
It's been that sort of season, so why not?
All right, baby Buga.
I think I'm gonna second that. I'm gonna go the 4-2 Barca as well. You know why? Because they're gonna leave spaces. They're gonna want the protagonism. It's their home ground.
Yeah.
Barca tend to do it's different. It's not Getafe. It's not a repeat of that.
Yeah.
Different game.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit more nervous about this one.
Okay.
Because looking at the table, we're second in the Champions League table right now, but within 3 points of us is all the way down to 12th place. So if for some reason we slip up here, we could easily fall out of the top 8. So I'm a little bit anxious going into this one. However, I'm going 5-1 Barca.
What? That's nonsensical. What the hell did I?
It's going to happen because we're going to score early. We're going to go up probably 2-0 early, right? Within the first 25 minutes, Barca are up 2-0. Maybe there's a mistake in the back, something happens, but we're up 2-0. Then Benfica sneak one in, maybe right before halftime. Okay. Second half, Benfica start to stretch themselves a little bit, and we just pile on the pressure, maybe get a couple of goals late in the match when it's really over already. 5-1 to Barca. Lock it in.
Sorry, we have to hear this. But okay.
He's just saying he was nervous as well. That's a funny thing. And then he whipped out a 5-1.
Gotta give him the old misdirect sometimes.
Do you know, that's I'm interested to see how Benfica approach it, because they're in, I think with 10 points you probably get through in the Champions League, but they probably think they probably need another point, and they've got Barca at home and Juventus away, which are difficult games. By the way, they've only conceded 3 goals in the Champions League. I think they've only conceded 11 in like 20 league games. So it'd be like conceding like half their goals in one game. I think they might.
Oh dear.
I think we might see a tight first half, and then it'll be interesting to see if they do open up in the second half, whether they think they need 3 points or whether they think with a point that could be them in the knockout round.
What you're saying is that we're facing the Portuguese Getafe?
No.
It's a fair point that we've all gone with quite high scorelines. Like there's a good chance they just come and play this tight and try and make it difficult for us. And we thought they were going to come out all guns blazing.
Yeah, we'll see. They're 15th in the table right now.
That's fair because, like Sam said, I think that if you're looking at the last 2 games, probably you're thinking the one at home is the one I want to get the point to progress.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to be prioritizing, Juventus or Barca at home?
Yeah, because
they probably backed themselves to get a point actually out of one of those two,
Yeah. Well, the point's not scientific, by the way. I'm just thinking 10 points. There's enough teams below them that perhaps they get through with 10 points, but you've got PSG 25th with 7.
Yeah.
PSG have obviously got Manchester City, but you'd imagine PSG win their last game and end up with 10 points. I think they're probably fine with 10 points, but with 1 point, it feels like they definitely go through.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It'll be a fun little wrap up in Champions League. So we'll see what happens here. But I think that does it for today's episode. Sam, thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us. Where can people find you?
Do you want my address?
No, not your address. Don't give that out. You'll get bombarded. Oh my goodness. No, I mean digitally. Where can people find you? Where are you putting out content?
Digitally, you can find my stories on ESPN and my voice on Siempre Positivo and on some ESPN podcasts and TV stuff. In terms of social media, I'm a little bit all over the place, like everyone right now. I'm not really in one place or anywhere.
All right. Well, ESPN Siempre Positivo. That's where you'll find Sam. And of course, we'll have him back on the podcast in the near future. Pablo, Buga, anything else before we wrap?
No. Thank you, Sam, for coming to the pod.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, guys. Been a pleasure. Lovely to spend time with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Pod, alongside Harry Kane and
yes, friend of the pod. All right, so we'll be back next week. We'll do a little recap of the Benfica match, as well as who do we have in the Liga coming up?
Valencia Sunday.
Valencia, my goodness. Okay, another big week for Barcelona. Let us know down in the comments what your predictions are. Give us your thoughts, give us your opinions, give us your questions, and we'll see you next week for another episode of MES Podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, guys.